On this episode of Interviewing Philly, Kenny Nguyen talks with the actors Alexandra Voelmle, Madalyn St. and Matt Keim about their experience working on the project, the changes in their roles during the production of Season 2, and adjusting to life in the pandemic as an actor. This is Interviewing Philly.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to Interviewing Philly, this podcast where we go behind the scenes of Scope's web series, Interview Philly, and hang out and get to know the cast and crew. We'll be chatting about how the series was made, what difficulties we had to overcome, and all the gosh darn fun times we've had making it. I'm your host, Kenny Nguyen. I'm one of the head editors for Scope and Interview Philly. And today we have the cast of Interview Philly. Today we have Madalyn St. Matt Keim.
Oh, I forgot this is audio. We should probably say something, right?
Well, Madalyn waved. Matt also waved. And I'm so sorry. How do you pronounce your last name, Alexandra?
Oh, it's pronounced Voelmle. You just ignore half of the letters.
Okay. And we have Alexandra.
Kind of like your last name.
Yeah, pretty
go.
much. Well, first, let's get to know you guys first. So how do you guys know each other?
Well, we all went to the same acting school in Philadelphia, primarily. I think that's where I met. I did a short film. This is how I met Ben, the creator of the series, too. I did a short film called Coming Home, which as of September 2020 still has yet to be released.
Are you listening, Matt Jenkins?
This was in the summer. This was in the summer of 2017, right after I graduated college, and I did a short film, and the other lead was Madalyn. And that was before I even knew that you were in Playhouse West, but Alexandra I met through Playhouse West.
Yeah, and actually I met Alex, similarly, we were both on set for a chaos of a short film that was produced, I'm going to use air quotes there, through somebody at our acting school. And I think we recognized each other as some of the only other sane people in the room. So that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, the friendship was pretty much us drinking like Pabst in the backyard of this person's house while we waited for hours to pretty much just not be used.
Yeah, like in the middle of the night. It was like,
yeah.
It's like, I think 4 a.m. when we went home. I think we maybe shot one scene.
And we kept telling each other, you know what? Screw it. We're going to leave. Like, we're not getting used. They're never going to get to our scene. And then we eventually got used as extras, which is not what our characters were.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to be in that short, if we're talking about the same thing, what I think you guys are talking about. But I think I passed on it to
do literally anything else. To do literally anything else. Matt, so I actually got into Interview Philly because I don't know the whole story, but I guess the person originally playing my character dropped out or something didn't work out, and he kind of, I think Matt and I had only known each other for a couple months through class, and he was like, hey, I think you'd be really good for this part on this project I'm working on, like, why don't you send the creators a video? So I, emailed them and sent them my resume, and then, sent them this, monologue that I filmed really quickly. And so that was, how I ended up being in the first season. And then I don't want to toot our horn, but I feel like Matt and I are very instrumental in the second season coming around, because I feel like we really convinced Abe and Ben that, there was something there and they should write a little more. So,
Yeah. We, so last episode of Interviewing Philly, I had the pleasure of interviewing Ben and Abe, seeing how Interview Philly came about. And Matt, you were there since episode 1, season 1. So I want to hear your side of how you got into this project.
Well, I touched on it a little bit, but I met Ben through the aforementioned short called Coming Home. When I because he was the only crew member, because he was doing sound, and so he's the only crew member who's working when like the actors are working for the most part. It's a bit of an overgeneralization, but I got to know him through that, and we just kept in contact. And at the time, he actually was supposed to play the role that I ended up playing.
Yep.
Because he told me about that web series back in, I think maybe when did we shoot Coming Home? Was it July of that year? Yeah, I think it was July of that year, and he was talking to me about this web series about he wanted to do with his friends, and so he was actually asking me for like pointers about acting or like good books to read or anything like that. So I was just friends with him beforehand, and then I got an invitation to audition maybe December of that year. And as it turns out, he decided he didn't want to play the part, so he put out a call for it, and I got the audition. The callbacks were actually funny because Jessica, that's where I met Jessica. So I think Reagan was actually there the same day. Abe will have to fact check me on that one, but yeah, that would have been January of 2018, I think.
So with your role, did Ben come to you directly for to offer you the role, or did you have to sort of go through the audition process like everybody else?
Oh, I had to audition.
Okay.
He I think I honestly even missed the notice for the audition because I didn't even realize it was casting at the time. But I know they put out a call and they got it maybe somewhere between 1 to 2 dozen responses, and they just weren't getting what they were looking for, and so Ben contacted me personally, invited me to audition, but I still had to submit a monologue, and and my favorite part about the callback audition was actually I had to tell a joke.
Yeah, Ben mentioned that people auditioning had to do a sort of stand-up routine, whether it be written by yourself or just some other person's material to get sort of comedic timing and pacing. I guess. What did you do for your audition, if you can remember?
I don't remember what the initial monologue that I did was, but the joke thing didn't come back. The joke thing wasn't a thing until the callbacks.
Right.
The joke was it to tell it correctly, it takes probably 5 to 7 minutes. So I think that's a little bit more time than you want to spend. But it's a joke that a friend of mine who's very, very good at telling stories often told me, and it's probably the one that stuck with me the most. And like, I'm not a stand-up, I don't really have that skill, but it's a really, really well told. It's a joke that basically tells itself.
Yeah.
The work of that joke's the setup. Okay.
Yeah, but that's the best
go into
though.
it, and then you
Just
can-
a punchline.
It just makes me think of like the dad's Marlin's joke from Finding Nemo, where he keeps trying to like, he's like, there's a sea cucumber.
There's a sea cucumber. Oh wait, I messed up. Okay, the sea cucumber.
And everybody's face just like, oh god.
I can tell the joke, and you guys can decide if you want to cut it out later, if you want.
Sure. That's the editor's.
They'll put
that's
a
the editor's
redacted
job.
across the screen.
Yeah, that's the editor's job. I'm not editing this one, so
It's gotta feel nice.
it feels great. It feels great. Just
the amount of takes where we apologize to you because we knew what we were putting in.
we'll get to that later. But
okay,
yeah.
so the joke is as follows: when you die, before you can enter the pearly gates into heaven, similar to like the good place, you have to come across St. Peter, who's more or less doing the accounting, and usually he'll ask you a few questions, do some tallying, and then you get sent to wherever you're going to go. And one of those questions, and one of the final questions in this vetting process, is, so how did you end up dying? And oh god, I haven't done this joke in years. Hang on, I got it. And so one day, St. Peter's almost at the end of his shift when this very angry looking man storms up to the desk. And St. Peter looks the guy over. He's a fairly young guy. He was in good health. And so St. Peter's a little bit baffled because this guy's time wasn't scheduled to happen so soon. So he asks, "So how did you end up dying? You weren't due for another 40 years. So the man says, "Okay, so picture this. I live on the 14th floor of an apartment building. And I get a tip from my neighbor that my wife is cheating on me. So I go home early one day. And I storm in, and she's hysterical. She wasn't expecting me, which is why I know for sure that's what she was doing. And I'm tearing my apartment all over the place because there's no way this guy got out on that short notice. So I'm tearing my apartment apart, looking for this guy, and then I hear screaming coming from the outside balcony. And I walk in, and guess what? This SOB is hanging off the side of a railing. And you know what? At this point, I'm just seeing red. And so I try to pry this guy's fingers off the railings, and he's just holding on for dear life, but this son of a bitch is breaking up my marriage, so I'm not letting him off that easy. I tried biting his hands, and he will not let go. So I go back inside, and I come out with a hammer. And he didn't hold on too long after that, but he landed in bushes that were conveniently below. Probably a couple broken legs, but he's fine. That's not enough for this guy, so I unplug my refrigerator and throw it over the balcony. And hopefully that did its job. I don't know if it did because I turned around, slipped on a banana peel, and broke my neck. And so St. Peter is just taking this story in because this guy didn't have any past behavior of this kind of behavior. And so he's very confused, but he just assigns the guy to purgatory and then just moves on to the next one. So the next guy is an even more bizarre case. And again, it's a young guy, good health relatively. And so he asks, "So how did you die? You weren't due for another 50 years. And so the man responds, "Okay, so picture this. I live on the 15th floor of an apartment building. I've had some construction done on my specific unit, and the balcony railing was less stable than I thought it was. So I'm hanging outside one day, and I get up to go inside and get a drink, and I grip the railing as I'm doing it. The railing breaks, and I fall, but luckily for me, I catch myself on the railing of the apartment directly below it. And what do you know? There's a couple people home in this apartment. However, this guy just walks out, and I'm like, "Oh, thank God, help me, please help me." This idiot tries to start prying my hands off the railing. And no. That's not even the best part. He starts biting my hands. I'm like, what the hell did I do to deserve this? I'm certain I got this guy's mail one time. What's going on? And then he goes inside, and I think, oh my God, he just abandoned me. No, he didn't. He comes back out with a hammer and breaks my hands, and I fall. And I land in the bushes below. And I've never been a religious man, but I think I converted in that moment because those bushes broke my fall. But this sicko is not done with me. I look up, and there's a refrigerator just flying down at me. And then I ended up here. And so St. Peter sends the guy through the pearly gates apologizing for the inconvenience. And then a third man, in very quick succession, walks up to the desk. And same case as the first two. Young guy, relatively good health. But this guy is only in his underwear. And he asks the man, "What happened with you?" And so the man responds, "Okay, so picture this. So I was hiding in a refrigerator."
Okay, yeah. That's yeah, I like that.
That's the closest to a stand-up I will ever be.
Yeah. My favorite joke is just a really dumb. Like I'm a sucker for puns. My favorite joke is just this quick thing, just like, "Hey guys, did you You're that actress that got stabbed. What was her name again? Reese.
Witherspoon?
No, with her knife.
Oh. I love that joke.
I knew where that was going.
Yeah. That's my favorite one. But thank you for that, Matt. I enjoyed that very much. Getting back on track. Alexandra, I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you have to audition, or were you just offered the role?
Yeah, so Matt kind of recommended me, and then I never auditioned in person. I sent them like a tape. And then the first day filming for me, which was like the first day that I kind of met everybody, was in the tech. And it's really just this quick scene. I'm trying to think, because we obviously filmed it not in chronological order. It's so we go to a bar, but that was filmed there. So my first scene is after I've been with Reagan and we've spent our night together in the tech, which of itself is so ridiculous. And I go to leave, and so it's really just me like walking past in this dog t-shirt, because Reagan had all of these really ridiculous shirts and sweaters. So I'm wearing this like dog t-shirt, and I like breathe on the window near him, like I'm behind him, and then I just like walk away. And that was my introduction to everyone. I was like, bold choices.
You were definitely a standout. I edited I think all of season 1, and that scene was definitely a standout for you there. Madalyn, hello. So, what was how did you come into season 2? Since unlike everybody else, you are playing a role that was someone else's in season 1, and then you had to come in season 2. What was the process of like kind of going in blind, like?
I think going in blind is like the perfect way to describe it. Matt and Alex messaged me about it. Did I audition? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think I did either. I have no memory of it, but that doesn't mean anything. But I don't think I did, because I'd worked with both of them before. I'd worked with them before, and I think also everybody was just like a little desperate to fill this role because they were about to start production and didn't have an actress. And that's where I shine, desperation. So yeah, all I had to go on was, they sent me the links for season 1 to watch, which like Danielle is in a fair bit of it, but she's certainly not like a main character, so there wasn't like a ton. And then, the script for the first episode, I think, was initially all I got. So it was like a very like, I trusted the people that I was working with, so I was like, great, I'm just going to show up, and I trust that they will not let me look like an idiot. And I remember like sitting, the first episode I filmed was, I guess, episode 1 of season 2. We were at Ben's dad's like beautiful like house in the woods, which is actually like 5 minutes from my house, but somehow in the woods. But I remember like sitting with Ben on the couch and him like talking all this character stuff with me, and just feeling like so overwhelmed, because I was just like, oh God, like we're filming today, and this is my first conversation with the director, and I didn't want to do like an imitation of the actress that had played Danielle before, and I don't know that I would have been able to either if I had wanted to. But also like had to still kind of stay true to what already existed. So it was an interesting challenge, and I think everybody's attitude of just, everybody was like so laid back and didn't have expectations in terms of like, it needs to be this and you're not doing this. So I think Ben was a little bit scared, is probably as scared as I was about it, but everybody was great, and it ended up being a lot of fun, as for considering as nervous as I was about it. So yeah, it was a real Darren situation. We even, I think, put in a line in one of the like talking heads about how like, oh, I got a haircut and suddenly nobody recognizes me. I don't know if it made it to the final cut or not, but
because I remember assembling that cut in 201, and I was sitting with Lana, our other editor, and just going through it, and then I saw this joke. He was just like, why is everyone asking me like, why do I look different? It's still me, and Lana didn't realize that you were another actress from not Daniela from season 1.
Job done then. You know what? If anybody's watching that closely and still doesn't know, then I think we're good.
Yeah. So like, she didn't realize. She's like, oh shit, what? And like, that's Madalyn. That's another actress. And she's like, oh wow. It was
I'm basically a chameleon. So
yeah, you did a really good job.
Thank you.
So one of the funny stories I sort of want to bring up that I'm still curious about, that's in the back of my head. Ben and Abe told me, Matt, to mention to you sink pasta. I think I sort of know what that means, but I need you to elaborate for us, please, for those who don't know.
I don't remember which day shooting this was. Do you guys remember this?
I don't. Once you start talking about it,
yeah. Tell us.
I don't know if season 1 or season 2.
This was season. Abe, what season was this? 2 or 1? I know you can hear me. Table read for season 2. Okay, so this was the table read for season 2. And
season 1. Season 1.
Season.
No, season 1. I think.
Yeah, I might not be the best person to tell this story. I don't really remember too much.
Well, they told me to tell you.
They wanted to. One of the things I really love about working with Ben and just ABBC, which is just Ben and Abe at the time, was that they always make a point to feed you and feed you well. So today, that particular day, they made pasta and
all the Welch's fruit snacks.
Oh my god! Yeah,
crafty.
So on this particular day, the pasta spilled into the sink. I think this might have been at Ben's old apartment for one of the early table reads we did for season 1, because we did I think 2. One where they kind of focus grouped what was originally supposed to have been the first 6 episodes, because what became season 2 initially was just a 6-episode miniseries script. But they decided to just focus on the narrative they table read it, and then after hearing the results, they decided to just focus on those first 3 episodes, and then the second 3 episodes become what we see now in season 2. And so yeah, this was during one of the table reads for season 1.
Going from season 1 to season 2, your roles kind of changed as actors and now producers. How did that process come along for you working with ABBC?
So like I said before, Matt and I definitely, I feel like, kind of encouraged Ben and Abe that like, this is really funny, we should definitely do more. And I had told them that I'd like to be a little more involved, maybe like helping with writing a little bit, blah blah blah. Which ended up being a lot of writing, helping produce, co-directing episodes. And then obviously this episode in particular, I was very close to because I co-wrote it, and then I co-directed it with Colin, my dearest person ever. And this episode was cursed. I'd say it's the episode writing-wise that went through the most changes, and then shooting-wise was the most difficult. It wasn't big chunk of it isn't at somebody's house. We're using somebody's dad's office, so we had to go there on the weekends. There was one whole weekend that just got scrapped because of a family emergency for one of the cast members.
Yeah.
So that was unfortunate. But you know, you kind of have to go with the punches. Like for writing, it went through a lot of different changes. Like for instance, Danielle's going away party was originally going to be at a bar, and then we were going to have all of the people who kind of want to try and take our place at Full View kind of try and show up and crash the party. But a big thing, you know, we're not working with a huge budget, if like any budget. So when you're writing, you also have to keep that in mind. Like, is this the most realistic idea? And doing something, you know, that would be like getting the bar's permission, perhaps like renting it out for a day like we did for season 1 at Kung Fu Necktie. And so we were just kind of like, it's not super realistic. You know, if the time of year we were shooting, it might be kind of cold. So people standing outside for hours is not the best idea. Like, so obviously, like, you know, writing and being creative, you have to do it within the constraints of what you have, and like your abilities and the resources that you have. So that episode was difficult to kind of find the balance of us telling the story, but also being able to actually execute the script. But I think it made for one of the most like fun episodes. There's a lot that happens in the episode, obviously, and I feel like it has some of the most like crazy scenes.
Yeah. So there's a superstition between me, Ben, and Abe where episode 2, like both season 1 and 2, like episode 2 is just cursed. Like
season 2 of episode 1 was a bear to do. Hang on.
Episode 2, you mean?
Season 2 of episode...
Yep.
Oh, God. Episode 2 of season 1 sucked. Not in terms of the quality of the episode. It just in terms of the difficulty of getting the damn thing done.
Yeah.
That was before I was super involved as a producer, so I don't really remember, or I'm not even like aware of all the whys. It was just a very, very strenuous episode to do. And then with this season's episode 2, it was well, it was more than just cast members. We had crew members that had to drop out for whatever reason on really, really short notice. There was a fear of that we were going to lose the location at one point. Correct me if I'm wrong there. There was just... And I just remember that, like, I don't think the script for that one got finalized probably until well into production, if I'm right.
Yeah, I think we were still making edits for a while because I think when we finally settled on the idea of it being at the office, it was just like trying to figure out, like, also find a balance of like realism, because I think we there were other ideas that we had, but then we were like, when you step back, we're like, I don't know that really
I was supposed to dance in this episode at one point.
Sense.
There was supposed to be a dance number involving me.
Oh, we had a dance troupe?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a dance troupe.
Oh, wow.
That was another issue with having to scrap the one weekend. We lost like a character, had to drop out, couldn't do the other weekend. We had to recast her. We lost some of our extras. So then anything we shot that we were like, oh, maybe we'll be able to insert it, we couldn't really use. So yeah, there were definitely a lot of difficulties, but I mean, you just have to like roll with the punches and try and make the best of it and just keep going, because if you let hiccups, and I wouldn't even say they were little, there were like some really big hiccups. If you let those stop you, then like it's never going to get done. And this was the second episode, like it had to get done.
Yeah, I remember I don't know how many times you guys have had to shoot at that office space, but I think I was there for like one of the last days or something, and I was also an extra in that episode. Thank you for directing me, Alexandra. You were great. The amount of time I had to put into my character of just walking down the hallway with my drink is, I had to do a lot of preparation for that.
Yeah, because we needed it to seem like there were more people there than we actually had. So we were like ending up pulling you, who were just, I mean, you were kind of just being there out of the kindness of your heart. And so when you were editing, you had a little bit better of an idea, but you weren't there to like actually be an extra.
Yeah, I was there. I was there to DIT. Which means I sort of handle the digital files every time you guys would finish filming, and part of the panic during that panic,
yes.
I had to deal with that. Was just like, guys, we're losing footage. None of it is getting saved. And then me and Ben was just like, all right, everybody, let's quarantine the cameras real quick and just figure out what's going on. God, like just thinking about that's just giving me heart palpitations.
I
just
forgot
like,
we lost a bunch of footage.
yeah.
We also had to be like super creative. There's the scene where Matt and Jessica are walking, and one of our cameramen had those like, what are those called?
I wouldn't know. I'm not a camera person.
Not a Segway, but it was like a board with the two wheels,
Like a
that like you
hoverboard
can.
thing.
Yeah, like a hoverboard.
I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about. I just don't know what it's called. And
He's
The
like
ones that
on a
were catching on
hoverboard.
fire.
So it was Matt and Jessica are walking. One cameraman on a hoverboard who's doing,
It's not a
I think,
hoverboard.
like our straight on shot. We had another cameraman, and then Colin and I, who were directing, were holding a light. I was holding the light pole, and then he had to
this
hold
is the kissing
like,
scene,
heavy
right?
battery pack. Yeah, and so we were all like hovering and like slowly, quietly walking next to them as they're like walking,
boy.
and then eventually kiss. It was just
I have a
very
story
intense,
about that
but
scene. That
very
was that
rewarding.
scene. That's actually my first on-screen kiss. Was that scene? Yeah.
Oh wow.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, it
Clap, clap, clap,
might have been Jessica's as well. So going into that, we were both like checking in with each other throughout the rest of the day.
Okay.
'Cause that was the only scene, because we did a lot of stuff outdoors, and then we moved inside that day because we started to lose light, and like the scene with us, that had to be done at night. And so we weren't even directing my episode 204, which is coming out in a few weeks at that point. And so Jessica and I just had nothing to do. And so we would just keep checking in with each other throughout the night. It's like, hey, are you good? Are you good? Okay. And we all, like, because we were both, at least I was, I don't know about her, but trying to hide how, like, anxious we were about the whole thing. And so when one of us would eat, the other would pounce on the other to immediately start chewing gum or something. And we were supposed to shoot this scene at, I think, around 9:30 that night, but we didn't shoot it until about 11:30. So it kept getting pushed back, and the longer getting pushed back, the quieter it got between us. And so we're like, so I turned to her and I'm like, have you ever done this before? And she's like, no, you. And I'm like, no. And then you're out there, and then there's two cameramen in your face, two directors. I think Liz, who was ADing that night, was out there as well. You had somebody on sound, so probably a good 6 or 7 people around you. This is always one of the weirdest things about acting, is like how you have to be vulnerable as if only one person's right there when there's 10 other people in the room. And
oh yeah, Liz was holding the reflector too. Oh my god, there's so many people, and we're all just like slowly crab walking to the side.
God.
And then after the first take, I think Alexandra started squealing about how romantic the whole thing was looking, and I was like, oh.
It was so cute.
That's cute. So
I also like this episode because I think it shows like the wide range that Madalyn has, which we knew she had. That's why we recommended her for the role. You know, we were like, we know she can be deep and sensitive, but she can also handle the comedy. She can also handle being Jonathan's significant other, which I think would be very difficult.
Oh man, yeah. So, with the whole shooting process, perfectly segues into, or hoverboards into another thing I want to talk about. So yeah, Madalyn, you can start us out. So this series is sort of a mockumentary form. So how different is it, or what other challenges that you had to go through shooting a show like this? So what was this easier? Was this harder than what you're used to?
I mean, I think if anything, it's harder on the DP and the crew, who like Alex mentioned, it put you in some like weird situations that you wouldn't be otherwise. But for an actor, I don't feel like it's that different, and I actually think it can kind of be easier depending on the shot, because sometimes you get those sort of like spy shots that are like, they're not in the room, but they're like the one, I had this big argument with Jonathan in the one scene, and they shot part of it like through like a window, so like they weren't even actually in the same room. So that part of it's kind of nice, because you, like Matt was saying, with how awkward it can be with like 17 people watching you in this very intimate moment, the doc style can also like have moments where you are alone in the room with your acting partner, and so it just feels like very natural and very real. So I think if anything, for an actor, the style is a little bit better. I can't speak to the other side of things, what challenges it may present.
Mm-hmm. Matt, Alexandra, what about you guys?
Putting on my directing hat for a moment, you have to consider...
Please?
You have to consider that because you have in-universe cameras, you have to treat them as if they are also characters in the room. So not only do you have to have motivated and very, very carefully storyboarded moments, but you also have to consider the motivations of the camera people. Like, what if in this scene the camera people, it's like they're watching a train wreck. They don't want to be in the room, but they know they have to get the footage, like things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we made the decision for the security guard to bring in the camera person. I'm pretty sure we made that like on site, or right before we started shooting that scene. And again, this goes through more of like, this episode was kind of difficult to write and keep it realistic, but just things like that. And this is part of the reason I loved working with Colin, because he's a little more savvy on the technical side, so he was able to talk to like all of the grips and the camera people a little more specifically and in their lingo about exactly what we wanted and how we wanted everything to feel, and then I was able to kind of focus a little more on the actors and what we wanted out of the scene.
Gotcha.
And we also had two fantastic camera people, Morgan, who has been part of this project through...
No, I don't think so.
Like, was Morgan in season 1?
If he was, it was maybe for
right?
one day, but
he wasn't?
Stas was the person who DP'd season 1, and she was fantastic. Her timing was amazing.
Yeah. And but I mean, Morgan's just fantastic. And then we had the other camera person only worked with us for this one episode, but thank God he did, because he's the one who brought the hoverboard and all of these different lights, and it was his idea. He had like all these different lenses that made it possible to do like a shot for their fight scene, but from really far away.
Okay, so Alexandra, was this your first time directing? If not, what other projects have you directed? And yeah, what was the process like for you?
So I've assistant directed theater productions before. And I had directed a couple film challenges for Playhouse West before, but this was definitely felt more like professional and serious, even though like nothing's that serious about what we were doing. It was always laughs. I think it really helped to have written this, so we really had a feel of like what we wanted to accomplish with every shot, like how we wanted it to feel, how we wanted the space to look. So I think writing it definitely helped with that directing process, because we knew exactly what we wanted it to look like.
I also want to say, like, shout out to Alex, because at one point when we were shooting the fight scene in the office, the first day we were there was the day that Jonathan had this family emergency, and like we didn't know at the time if he was going to end up showing up or like if he was just out for the day. And then I think when we figured out he wasn't coming in, Alex wanted to get my coverage of that. And so she literally, like, I did the scene with Alex.
Oh,
like,
I forgot about this.
So not only was she like directing and thinking of all these things, but like she also stepped in. And I don't think we ended up using any of that because we ended up reshooting it when we had Jonathan. But it was just so cool of her to like, she didn't want to like send me home without doing something. And it ended up being like a nice rehearsal basically for the scene.
Yeah, because I think we were able to kind of rehearse like the end of your fight into Abe coming in. So at least you guys were able to like rehearse in the space, and it gave us a couple more ideas, I think, when we actually ended up shooting it.
Actually, Madalyn, correct me if I'm wrong, you took a class on Small Sword with Oliver Donahue, correct?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And actually, I remember talking to you, Ken, when we were, in holding or whatever, shooting this episode, and the class hadn't started yet, and you asked what class it was, and I said Small Sword, and you were like, why are you starting with the hardest weapon?
Yeah. Well, I assumed you finished the class. What was it? What was that like for you?
It was really fun. It's something that I've always like had this fringe interest in, but there's never been a ton of practical need as a female for that kind of like weapons training, because I mean, you mostly only see it in classical plays. Most classical plays don't have a lot of female characters, and even when they do, they're not very often the ones involved in the combat scenes. But yeah, it was really very technical, but I did feel like after taking the Small Sword class, I could take other stage combat classes and feel a little bit more confident because I had done this, like, it was like as much of a workout for your brain as it was for your body.
Oh, yeah. Small Sword is like a very tighter version of Single Sword. So if you went into Single Sword, it would just be a breeze for you.
Yeah, well, this stupid COVID is ruining everything. Alex and I actually were both enrolled in Oliver's hand-to-hand class when all this happened, so that's kind of been like suspended animation because as far as I know, SAFD isn't counting virtual training hours towards your certification, so like we have to wait until it's in person again, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
it's such a bummer because it's just so fun, because it's like, also, I really wish that I could stop making, like, loud sounds. It's practice. It's like the punch, like, very stupid. And I'm like, I can't not do those for some reason. But, yeah, hand-to-hand combat was very fun, and I hope to go back one day.
When did you guys start that?
In January.
End of January, yeah.
January.
So we got about, I think, halfway through, because it was a 16-week course.
Right. What scene did you use for your Small Sword, Madalyn, for your exam?
I definitely remember it. It was very memorable. It was called According Disaster. Oliver gave it to me as a suggestion, and I couldn't find, I tried to research the scene and couldn't find it anywhere. So I think it's a scene that like somebody at some point wrote for a stage combat class so that a girl could sword fight.
Okay. I got to talk to Oliver about that.
Yeah, According Disaster is the name of the scene. It was super fun. And I got to stab somebody at the end. So.
Oh, nice. So you won. Nice. Yeah, my experiences as an actor has mostly been in stage combat. And I don't know if I'm still certified as advanced because I got to check if my certifications are expired. But yeah, taking a lot of those classes was like my entryway into acting and stuff like that. I don't do it professionally currently, but for combat stuff, I'm usually like an extra that gets thrown across the table or kicked or dies somewhere. I'm basically a B grade movie extra.
You should definitely do it professionally, because I actually watched one of your I feel like I'm like creeping now. I watched one of your certifications with Ian Rose.
Oh, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Ian?
Because Oliver invited us. It was at Temple, and Oliver invited us to come watch, just so we'd like kind of have an idea of like how our own certification would go.
Okay.
And I'm a very good student, so I showed up on Saturday morning.
As you should.
Yeah.
What scene was it that you saw?
You were in a couple, because I don't remember which one was yours and which ones you were like kind of
Right.
assisting with. It was the day that somebody did Monty Python.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like a couple scenes from like Glow and some like really inventive stuff. But I just remember specifically because I knew who you were, like being very impressed, because I knew you talked about it, but I'd never seen you do it before. And then so getting to watch you during the certification, I was like, oh damn, he's very good at this.
Oh, thank you. I like to think I'm good at it. Ian Rose is my teacher, and what I love about him, he's a fantastic teacher, and anybody who, if you're interested in just like, even it's good to have for your resume as an actor, but also if you just want to play around with swords, which is how I got into it, just take one of Ian Rose's classes. He's an incredible teacher.
Yeah, he actually too came. My husband owns a karate school, and there's like a big family of schools that are all kind of related, and he came to one of the schools and did like a Zoom stage combat class for their students, and just taught them like a little combination, and for people that like already love martial arts, to then get to like pretend they're in like an action movie, like, and they all like, filmed their little clip and put it on Facebook, and everybody loved it, and he was just so great, because I've only seen him in the capacity of like adjudicator, where he's this like master, and I'm just like so intimidated. So to get to see him in action and just be like so cool and down to earth, he's really awesome.
One of my favorite things is that him with new students, like he's always so kind, and like just really interesting, like, okay, all right, we can adjust this, we can adjust that, but if I mess something up, he will just chew me out, just like, Kenny, you're killing me, what the hell are you doing? Because his expectations of me are a lot higher, and I'm doing my best to keep impressing him.
You're
yeah. I think if you were there that day, if you were there in person, I'm sorry that I missed you. I
snuck in and out literally like a creeper. So
yeah. I believe I did 2 scenes. One scene was a 3-weapon fight. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, and I remember thinking how exhausting.
Yeah, that's something you don't usually do. It's actually something that older fight people have done, and we don't do that anymore. But I just wanted to get those certifications out the way, so I just did 3 of them at once in one scene, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But it was like so rewarding at the end. I was like, oh my God, I'm glad this is over. And another scene I did was from that Netflix movie, Always Be My Maybe, with Keanu Reeves, the Keanu Reeves fight. I pitched that as a joke to my friends, and then we were like, no, wait, let's actually do it.
Steve
Steve Way.
Right? Steve Way, yeah.
Yeah, he probably assists for Oliver's class, right?
He does, yeah.
Yeah, Steve, one of my best friends. He's a great guy. Moving on from that, because we can't do our combat stuff because of quarantine, how has quarantine affected your careers, fellas? So yeah, who wants to start? Who wants to start?
I think what's super challenging, I mean, it's obviously been challenging for everybody in every industry, no matter what. But I think, like, specifically for the 3 of us, we're all at the stage of our careers where it's like, okay, like we're just like basically starting, no matter how many years we've actually been doing this. Like, so it's all about like meeting people and planting seeds and like, you know, doing as much as you can. And like that was kind of put on hold. So it wasn't even like, oh, once quarantine's over, we'll get back to work. It was like, oh, once quarantine's over, we can get back to trying to get work. So it's like, it was just like, you already kind of feel powerless sometimes because you're just like doing all of you can to get in front of people. And then to not even be able to do that was definitely frustrating. Luckily, it's kind of like picking back up right now. So just like on a personal note, I just tried to take as many classes as I could that we're doing virtual classes, and you know, brush up my like marketing materials and you know, try to meet some like agents or casting directors via Zoom, which like it did feel futile at times because you're like, oh, why you're not casting anything right now, so are you going to remember me in 6 months when this starts again? But that's kind of always what it is. You meet a casting director and they might not remember you in 6 months. So yeah, just using it as like the things you always say, oh, I want to do this when I have the time. But now you have no excuse. So
Yeah, but it's also okay if, you know, because it is sort of kind of the end of the world currently. So don't always feel obligated that you have to do things. But
yeah, my fervor definitely died down when I realized what a long haul this was. When it was like March, I was like, great, I'm going to sign up for this class and this class and this class. And then by June, I was like, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, too, I
Alex.
kind of looked at it at the beginning, you know, I like remember stuff getting shut down and having a conversation with a friend where we were like, this will be done by Cinco de Mayo, right? No. Is the
wrong we
answer
were.
to that. But obviously we didn't know at the time, so I think I kind of went into it. When we shut down, I was moving out of my apartment in 2 weeks, so I was like, you know what? I never get a break. I'm going to take a break, like relax, chill out, take my time, like packing, which is really just like me sitting really depressed on the couch, like crying all the time for 2 weeks. So that was fun.
Mood.
So yeah, I'm definitely someone who kind of just jam packs their schedule full of stuff, because I definitely feel like I'm like a hard worker, but I need to like show up and be there, and then I can be a hard worker. Like I'm not the best like work from home type of person because I just will get easily distracted and think of a million other things I need to do. So it's been a little difficult because it's like I can't show up to that thing that I was going to be a part of because it's not even happening anymore. So it's like me trying to invent these things, and I think everyone right now is coming to this realization, but a lot of people in this industry too, that like, I mean, like, you have to have these realistic expectations. Like, we're going through a really tough time right now. You don't need to come out of it like having written a novel. Like, that's just gonna add to your like melancholy that you're like, oh, I'm not getting work, and then I'm not like writing the next great American play either. And it's like, well,
You didn't write any novels during quarantine?
Yeah. I've written 3. I've rebranded myself. I'm coming out with a brand new brand. Yeah, I mean, just like trying to be realistic. I mean, I'm glad I still want to do this at the end of this. It's, you know, I think, especially when you're young, people kind of tell you, like, when you're like, I'm going to go into theater, I'm going to major in theater or major in film. I got this a lot that, like, if I wanted to do literally anything else, that I should do that instead, which is stupid. And stupid people said that to me. If you said that
I've
to me,
always
you're
been
stupid.
of the opinion that
Yes.
that like anytime you get that kind of like side eye, or your parents or someone's like, oh, so you're going to be serving me at McDonald's in 10 years, then it's like, okay, fuck you. Stop watching movies. Never watch another goddamn movie ever again. But like that's kind of like my point of view.
Yeah, I remember being, this was years ago when I was on set for a music video and for this band that shall not be unnamed. But I was just like, moving. I was PA in DIT and was moving stuff, and then these band members, they're like doing music and stuff like that, and they're like, so what do you do? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm majoring in film and stuff like that, and then they're like, oh, so I'll see you at Walmart then, and I'm like, bro,
You're a
aren't
band.
you?
Musician said
Yeah,
that to you?
aren't you a band?
A musician said that?
Yeah,
God.
a drummer said that
To be
to me.
honest,
Yeah.
for my experiences during this whole thing, this might be a little bit more of a pessimistic outlook, but I just didn't see the point of doing online classes because so much of acting, and especially the style that all three of us were trained in, is based off of listening and reacting to the other person that's right next to you. That involves body language. It involves just little moments that you can't pick up from watching someone over Zoom. So I wasn't able to do it. The most frustrating thing about all of this for me was that I was at a point with my career and with my life where I felt like I did everything I could in this city and I was ready to move on. I was thinking about dabbling in another acting class. I think it's called the Actors Lab. I was thinking about auditing that when all of this started. The Actors Lab is where Jessica and Reagan were training at the time. But once things shut down and it started to look like this was going to be extended for months and months and months, I took a minute and I was like, is this really what I want to be doing with myself? Is this really what I want to be doing with my life? The answer is still yes, but I did have to take a break. But it was like, I was getting good material back from my reel. I was going to get new headshots, and I was going to, because my initial plan was to start contacting casting directors and agents and and managers and people like that back in the spring, but I just kind of lost the initiative with that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just because I don't know that I would endorse having this point of view to anyone under most circumstances, but my entire thing was, okay, what's the point? So the thing I've worked on most in the quarantine is actually I've been learning a new language.
Oh, what language?
Spanish.
Oh, nice.
Que bueno.
I got on Duolingo and
Muy bueno.
But honestly, it's been an intellectual pursuit that I've just been doing for myself.
That's good.
And so it's just been really rewarding for that. And it's just something that grounded me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reading a lot. I started watching a lot of movies. Cause one of the things that one of the reasons why I really liked Playhouse West was that it's one of the few acting classes out there that was way more focused on film than theater. Mm-hmm. And you don't really see that a whole lot with acting classes. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that they drilled into your head is that you're going to pick things up if you watch movies and understand the choices that are being made with good movies. Mm-hmm. So just watching movies with a more, I was also a film major, so I already kind of had this mindset, but watching it with a little bit more critical eye, you can learn a lot just by doing that. Mm-hmm. Which is my way of saying my Netflix binges were intellectually productive.
That's a tax write-off.
I think too there has to be a lot of obviously every major setback in history has kind of propelled people forward and created the way for innovation. I did a student film that I randomly shot from home in May, and I was like, well, I'm not doing anything else, so I'll just do at least it'll be something to do at this point. And it was nice because it was me and one other actor. We were the only two characters. And it was nice to make that connection because he was a really great guy. But, we're in a time, FaceTime and Zoom calls already existed. And now we're in that time. So kind of these mediums are definitely going to become more common. And I think too, people are seeing yeah, you know what, we don't need to have in-person auditions for everything. We can take a tape and save everybody hours of time. And the flip side to that is you're able to get people who live in a different part of the country or even part of the world to audition a little bit easier.
The funny thing is that I'm horrible at self-tapes, so it's I'm so much better in person.
Yeah. My difficulties during this whole pandemic I'm trying to get a permanent position as a film editor anywhere that's paid. And the worst timing ever was I nabbed a job interview uh, with just this corporate company who does like corporate videos for clients and stuff like that. And the guy really liked me, and he was going to hire me, and then the pandemic hit, and he could only hire me on a freelance salary. So I only had like one job a month, which was it was terrible. But with my free time, I've forced myself to try to be creative. Like like some stuff that I've sent you guys, like that poster or that video or just stuff like that I can do in my free time. So I definitely I definitely understand from the film side of things, not particularly the acting side of things, but that's really really nice to know that you guys shared that. I think we can start wrapping up with some closing thoughts. I guess my question for you guys on Interview Philly Season 2, or Matt, Alex, both one or two. I guess what's your favorite moment on set, if you can remember, like a very standout moment for you that was like funny or just anything that stands out to you.
I'm trying to think. That's hard. It's hard too because I mean, I think there were only 2, maybe 3 days that we filmed that I wasn't. Now, if I wasn't in it and I wasn't directing it, then I was like helping in some way. So we were like talking before. I'm like, did I direct this episode? Like, did I write this? Because we're just so involved with like everything. And I think it's definitely been like such a positive experience to work with people who are so collaborative and like, we're so collaborative that it blends together, like who directed what, who wrote this, who did it. Because we've just, just like this needs to get done. So we're all going to work really hard together to get it done. So I feel like the thing I'm taking the most away from this is just like working with people that you enjoy working with, who kind of let you shine, and that you can then in turn like lift them up and help them do their best job too.
Mm-hmm.
Now follow that, Matt.
Just takeaways, even takeaways.
There's a lot of takeaways I could. I'm gonna stumble over for a few minutes before I can fumble into a coherent answer. So just bear with me for a minute.
That's fine. I can relate.
We didn't really talk about my episode because I directed an episode that's being released after this. That's being released in several weeks, but that was a challenge simply because I hadn't directed in a long time, and that episode was fairly focused around my character as well. Like, there's a big scene involving myself and Abe. No spoilers. That was
I'm editing
not
that.
the easiest thing. Oh, have fun. It was hard as hell to get that. It was really difficult to get that scene done for whatever reason. Like, one time we accidentally deleted the footage, another time we got to the location and then one of us would forget a costume, and it was a whole thing. But the challenge of directing and acting at the same time was really, really intimidating.
Yeah.
So like, I had multiple meetings with Ben, who kind of helped me direct that episode, where I sat him down and I explained exactly what I wanted, when I wanted it to happen. Because I was like, I don't really want to be directing on set on days that I'm acting, because I don't really know how split my focus should be. So it was just as much fun as this project has been, it's also been a challenge. And I think hopefully we've all come out of it as way better at our crafts than when we went in. I've done a lot of things that as an actor I haven't had a chance to do until now. I haven't directed anything in a while. I'm producing a podcast because of this show now. That podcast is a blast to do.
Woo!
We're still talking about Scream through the rest of the month, by the way.
Woo!
But I think the thing that sticks with me is how supportive everybody else was. And I'm like Ben and all of the main cast, but literally every single person we brought on set. So my first day on set directing, first of all, this is the biggest thing I've directed. And this was the first time I was directing in probably 2 or 3, maybe even longer years. And we had a guy named Justin who was a very talented DP who ended up moving to LA halfway through production. So he was only with us for a little bit. And I show up on set and we're kind of shooting a couple different episodes at the same time. So when it's my turn to start directing for that episode, I start freezing up because I was just so kind of overwhelmed by things. And then Justin and I walked into another room. He's like, "Hey man, it's fine. We got this. I know what you want. You have a good plan. Let's go." And just how supportive, because we were really all in this together.
Yeah. Madalyn?
I think for me, what was great about it, and it kind of echoes a little bit of what both Alex and Matt said, was just like, it's always the goal for an actor to feel like get to the point where you don't have to audition for things anymore, and people just like send you scripts, and your manager's like, "Oh, there's 8 people that want to work with you," and you're like, "Of course they do." So, like, to have that on this kind of small scale, because I had worked with Alex and Matt and Ben before, it takes like this added layer of pressure off of everything, because when you show up on set and you don't know anybody, like every moment feels like a first impression. So in addition to all the acting things that you're doing in your brain, you then have this like other human activity happening, which is like, oh God, I hope I don't F this up, and like these people don't hate me and never want to work with me again. So the fact that like I got called in for this role, like having worked with them already, it made it much more relaxing. It made it much easier to like focus on your work. And I think it just like, as much as I don't want to say like kind of makes what I just said true, that every time you work with somebody, you are making an impression on them. It is true, and it's important no matter what project you're involved in, even if you think it's something like, oh, I'm never going to see this person again, or like, oh, this is some garbage student film that nobody's ever going to watch. It's probably not even going to get finished. Or if it's, in the case of Coming Home, this great film that you're so excited about, and then it never gets finished, and you're like, okay, just sad. Like I met so many people working on that, and that was only a 3-day shoot. Just like as an example, like you never know who's gonna like reach out, especially now with like social media and everything, where everybody is everywhere all the time. Like you could just get like a DM that's like, hey, we are casting this project, we think you'd be great, like come in or whatever. So it's just like a very, very long-winded way of saying be nice to people, because then later they'll cast you and stuff.
That's the biggest takeaway of this project.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that I didn't have to audition was like the best, the cherry on top of this whole experience. I didn't have anything to prove, which is very nice.
Yeah. For me, from a post-production standpoint, this is the first project where when I'm sitting, just at my computer going through footage, and then, things get screwed up, and then the actors and crew just looking at the camera going, "Sorry, Kenny." I'm sure there's going to be a
count.
I kept count in season 1. I've lost count in season 2.
You should do a compilation video. Because it was a lot.
I'm planning on that. It's just like I'm gonna go to Ben's house and then ask for the footage. I'm just like, I gotta make this. You're welcome. You'll thank me later. But yeah, just like seeing that, like I remember the first time, Abe just like he slated, and then everybody was like tipsy or drunk, and just going, sorry Kenny. And I was like, oh wow, like even though I'm not I'm not there on set. I just I feel the support. Like, you know,
You're in our hearts.
Yeah, I'm just there in spirit. That's how I work. I guess I'm not there, but I am in a way. And yeah, just, you know, again, I mentioned to Abe and Ben before, this is, you know, one of my favorite projects to work on as a post-production person. And yeah, just getting to know you guys and stuff like that. You're all crazy talented and stuff like that. And sometimes I'm actually, you know, especially with you guys actors, when I'm in a room with you guys on set or stuff, I'm intimidated. I'm just like, oh man, just these guys, they're great, and I'm just here on a computer. But yeah, any other closing thoughts? But before we sign off, or anything you want to promote?
Oh, I found the other guy on Instagram. I kept thinking his name was Nico, but that's just his like Instagram handle.
Okay.
It's HIEU. Was it Hugh?
Hugh,
right? Yeah. Okay.
Hugh.
Hugh Tran.
Hugh Tran. Okay.
Hugh Tran.
Yeah.
Should I re-record like what I said about them, just so we can include his name?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What did I say? What did I say? Oh, so we had like two fantastic, I want to say cameramen, but they also were like the grips and lighting designers, and they did almost like literally everything. Morgan Hart and Hugh Tran. And Hugh Tran only worked on this episode with us, but he brought so much. Like, he had, you know, like the hoverboard, and he had all this like different lighting equipment and lenses. I think it may have also been his idea for like the party lights. We kind of have this like changing light situation. It was actually a small projector, and they just found like a screen that was just changing colors, and so they projected that, I think, onto the ceiling, and it changed the lighting in the room. Just like these really innovative things that obviously I would have never thought of, but they were able to take our like vision for what everything looked like and use what they had and just like make it come true.
Cool. Any other closing thoughts or anything you want to promote?
Repetition Rhapsody.
Do you have a link anywhere? Because I've never actually seen it.
Yes, I do.
Ooh, because the last time you were, you know, promoting it and putting it in festivals, so I couldn't, like, you didn't have it online.
Yeah, so it is on my Facebook, but you'd have to like dig for it because I posted it like when the shutdown started. It was in a couple of festivals that were supposed to be in March that then got canceled, and at that point I was just like, all right, I'm just posting this publicly because it's never going to be shown at a festival ever again at this point. So my website is MadalynStJohn.com, MadalynStJohn.com. And under videos, it's on there, the full, it's like a 6-minute short film. It's the first film that I directed called Repetition Rhapsody. It was like this like fever dream of a musical that I had.
Yes, you heard that correctly. Her first directorial debut was a musical.
Yeah, I go bigger.
Wow.
I start Stage Combat with Small Sword. I start directing with movie musicals.
Yeah,
that's everything you need to know about her.
Yeah, I just that's the same reason I can't speak a second language, and I'm like not great at instruments because I don't want to like learn how to do it. I just want to be good at it right away. So I just go for it.
Well, I can't wait to see you in a Stage Combat class at some point.
Won't that be a delight?
Yeah. I'm usually like I am a teaching assistant, but I'm like the substitute type guy. Or
I'll take out somebody's kneecaps so that you can get some class.
Or I'm if I'm not assisting, I'm just there to hang out and just fight. So
honestly, like hanging out and fighting seems like an actual dream right now.
Oh yeah. Anything from you, Matt? Yes. I remember. I remember that. hmm Nice. Yeah, please keep watching. Yeah, well, I have nothing else to promote but Interview Philly and this podcast. So, and yeah, watch Return to the Movie and watch Blindsided, please. That's we worked really hard on that. Well, yeah, thank you guys for chatting with me. I hope you had a nice time. And thank you guys for watching and or listening, wherever you're listening to this podcast. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.